Greetings to everybody who has joined us so far. We're sorry about the music. I don't know, David, whether that is my hearing of it, or there's something with your audio and video. The music was quite awful. Um, anyway, welcome to this series, which is a series on the proposed National Transitional Authority, uh, a program we've been driving since March this year. Transition Authority idea goes back almost 10 years ago when some of us put it on the table as the only way forward in a country with a state which to this day appears incapable of reform, neither political nor economic, a state which is basically security based uh, and virtually confirmed so as through a coup in 2017. A state in which the executive is unaccountable, which the legislature is a mess at the moment, and in which the judiciary is captured. Complete annihilation of anything that one might be called a democratic dispensation. And we are saying that on the back of this pathology, nothing works. And in almost every sector of our society is in a mess. If the state itself is in a mess, so social development, education, health, we've discussed health before. So is the economy, in which the informal sector is virtually dominant. Unemployment is legion, over 90% unemployed, and so on and so forth. Today, perhaps the theme that we have before us is best introduced in that little note by Obid Masaraure, the president of the Association of Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, ATUS, when he wrote, "We have done enough of complaining about the crisis in the education sector. Our education was a source of pride across the world. Today, we enjoy massive remittances from an elite diaspora which was produced by a robust education system. That education has collapsed because of imposed structural adjustment programs, corruption, incompetence, and leadership failure. The current Zimbabwean state has no capacity to restore the glory days of our education sector. Only a national transitional authority will build a state that can modernize our education, make education accessible and compatible with the demands of the 21st century. So this week, we join hands with the leadership of the Academic Union of Teachers of the University of Zimbabwe and other university tertiary institutions across the country to share an education manifesto. And so we have, unfortunately, the president of ATUS, Obed Masaraure, is unable to join us until later, if he's able to finish his urgent meeting in time. And we have the vice president of ATUS, Christine Kayumba. We have the member of the Academic Union of Teachers, Professor Wenge, and we have the Deputy Secretary General of ATUS, Munyarazi Masiwa. Welcome, colleagues, to this forum, the Surface Trust Policy Dialogue Forum, as I said earlier, which is looking at the way out of this crisis. And so we're here to see how, first and foremost, a description of the crisis in the education sector, and then suggestions as to how we can get out of this crisis. So my first panelist will be Professor Wenge from the Faculty of Arts and Humanities, University of Zimbabwe, and presently with the AUT, which, as we know, lectures have been on strike in a crisis which reflects the overall crisis in the education sector. After him, we'll have Christine Kayumba, and then Mnyaradzi Masiwa. But before that, a bit of a background, if I may. A background to the education sector in particular, but the development of the Zimbabwean polity since independence. I'm pleased to have been associated with the development of education at post-independence. As Masarao's note says, we had a education sector which was a pride of the world in the 80s. Regrettably, we have today most of our product of that revolution in education and human resources converted into the diaspora that we have. And today, we have a situation in which almost 80% of all professional and skilled Zimbabweans are outside the country. We are now major exporter of skills. And conversely, that which was a machine, a factory for the production of skills, has imploded into a vortex of an education crisis, which teachers in particular, but even lecturers and professors, are earning almost nothing. And therefore, the crisis, the exodus continues. I want here there to bring in Professor Wenge to take up the theme and introduce the subject for us. Professor Wenge. Hello. Hello. Is Wenge not in?
I think we've lost him.
Oh, damn it. Can Christine take up? Christine?
Hello.
Welcome. Can you take up the theme of our discussion today?
I've just joined. How are you? Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Can you use one device
Okay.
only? One device. Use one device only. Hello?
Okay, I didn't hear what you have asked. I've just joined in. I don't know where you are in the discussion.
We're discussing today the crisis in education. And we
Yes,
hope that Atus in particular can highlight the crisis in education and thereby also show how the transitional authority can redeem the situation in all sectors, but in particular in education. You got me?
yes, I got you. I'm having issues with my network, but I'll try to come in. All right. We have a crisis in education, and our system has been faced by a lot of challenges in the recent years, and also this has affected the quality of our education and also how to access it. Uh, the biggest issue is that of funding shortfalls. If you have looked at how the budgeting process is done, the amount that is given to education, and looking also at the state of education, it is underfunded. We have schools that are struggling. We have schools that have no infrastructure. For example, I teach at a very urban school about 17 kilometers from Harare, but the school is not built. The school doesn't have furniture. So that alone, having a school that is closer to the capital city and doesn't have infrastructure, what more of a school that is down there on the border areas? If we have a school in Harare that still use the bus, that still use um, those structures that were left by farmers. So we have an issue here. We need to increase the percentage that is allocated to education. And also, we are faced with teacher shortages. We have brain drain of qualified teachers due to low salaries and also poor working conditions. Every time when we open schools, teachers are on strike. It's because they are poorly remunerated. Every teacher wishes to transfer to go abroad where there are greener pastures. So each and every time we have at a school, there is a new teacher, maybe one who has recently graduated. But those with vast experiences, they are going out looking for greener pastures. And another thing, this introduction of the new curriculum, the heritage-based curriculum, it was rolled, but without enough resources. And looking at rural schools, it, it leaves the students being disadvantaged because there is no electricity, they can't even access internet, And in most cases, they have to research whatever that they want to write. And at this time, we are nearly 6 months into the year, but not enough workshops were done to equip even the students and also the teachers on how to administer the heritage-based curriculum. So I don't know how these kids are going to write the examinations. They are faced with a lot of projects that they need to write. The parents at home, they've never done it before, so they can't even help them.
Where are you based, Christine?
Hello, can you come again?
Where are you based at the moment?
I'm in Mashonaland West, in Zimbabwe district.
Where? Oh, in Zimbabwe district.
Yes.
Then you are teaching. Which school are you teaching at?
You want me to mention the school?
Oh, you don't want to mention the school? So that's all right.
No.
So basically, what's the population of teachers now in the country? The number of teachers in Zimbabwe?
Around 133,000.
133,000. That's primary and high and secondary.
And secondary.
And that's both government and non-government
and private.
schools.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And what will be the shortage? The shortfall of the teachers required for the schools in the country. If 133,000 is
last time I checked, it was around 35,000.
85,000.
No, 35.
13,000.
35.
35,000 shortfall.
Yes.
And that shortfall is growing, is it?
Yes, it's growing because more and more teachers are leaving the profession.
And what has been the impact of both the shortfall and the dire straits in which teachers find themselves in terms of wages? How would you summarize the crisis, the problem facing the country?
You see now, the problem keeps on piling on the teacher who's on the ground now. For example, I have a teacher, I teach languages. The teacher whom I was sharing the load with is transferred to another ministry. So I'm left with all the load of that teacher. The teacher is not replaced. So teachers are not being replaced. Teachers who go for maternity leave, who go for sick leave, they are not even replaced. And sometimes students, they go up to a term without a teacher. And it becomes a problem for them to catch up on that subject.
What is your prognosis as to, first of all, the immediate future of education in the country? What would you say is the likely scenario of the education sector in Zimbabwe in the coming year, the coming 2 years?
Education now has been informalized. You see that a lot of parents, they are taking their children out of the government schools to private schools where they are teachers and also where they are doing some of the subjects that are not offered at the government schools. This heritage-based curriculum has seen a lot of parents withdrawing their children and reverting back to schools that offer the Cambridge that we used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So only poor people will be left at government institutes.
Yes. Well, as you might know, in our time, we're talking about the
Yes,
60s and 70s, for us Africans, schools were mostly private schools or mission schools, rather.
okay.
In fact, mission schools have been the backbone of education as we know it in Zimbabwe, certainly
Yeah.
for my generation.
In the current situation, do you know that the mission schools, they are also privatizing?
Yes. I just want to know what is the status of these mission schools now. I know we know the plight of government schools. You have given some
Yes.
indication as to how bad things are. What is the status of the mission schools at the moment? The legendary
The
schools like
mission
where
schools,
I taught at Kutama, for example, which is there in your area as Juba.
yes, it is privatized
Uh-huh.
and they are no longer affordable as they used to do. We teachers, we also used to send our kids to mission schools. But with this issue of privatization, it has totally changed everything.
Maybe you want to explain to our audience what is the meaning of privatization?
The meaning of privatization.
Yes. You said even mission
Normally, we
schools
have these mission
have
schools.
privatized. What do you mean by that? Can you explain to those who might not understand that?
Okay. Maybe I will give an example to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we have church run schools.
Yes,
Hello.
I can hear you. You said like take a private mission schools like Kutama. You said they've been privatized. What does it mean? It means that the schools are now more expensive for the average parent. Christine, Christine, can you hear me?
Hello.
I'm saying
Okay.
I'm trying to get.
Privatization. We are saying
Mhm.
it's the transfer of the ownership of management or the control of educational institutes from the private sector, that is the government, to private entities or organization or individuals.
Mhm.
Mm.
And this has made them increasingly out of reach for the average parent, right?
Yes, it has become very expensive.
Yes. So what does this mean for the majority of children in the country? Are you able to summarize, but highlight the plight of the majority of children in Zimbabwe vis-a-vis the issue of school and education?
Okay, it simply means education has become unaccessible.
Mm-hmm. Inaccessible. And in your view, What are the possible implications for the lot of the children, the population of Zimbabwe, if this trend continues as it is?
We experience a lot of school dropouts and a lot of child marriages. We marriage.
So last year,
Yes.
30,000 students graduated from the universities in Zimbabwe. 30,000.
Okay.
Where would they have come from in the school system? From this privatized school system? From government schools? From private schools which offer O level and A level? Where would they have come from in the previous 3 years when they entered university?
I think most students are coming from the private schools.
From private schools.
Yes, from private schools.
And 30,000 is a big number, right?
It's quite a big number. And these people, they are doing nothing.
And how many would you say Zimbabwean students are outside the country doing university education? Does ATUS have statistics which indicate how many Zimbabwean students are out there?
We don't have great statistics, but I don't think there are a lot.
You don't know a lot?
Yes, because the majority of the people, they cannot afford to send their children to learn abroad. Those students who are learning outside the country are those for the few elite people.
Wow. Now, Christine, you have the title of our topic today, an NTA Today, making education work again. What does that mean to you?
Okay, to me, it means maybe if we put our heads together, join hands, maybe try to intervene into the current government and set aside our differences, we can make up an education that can work.
Okay, I'll come back to you,
because
Christine. Let me go to
the current government has failed on education.
I'll come back to you. Just think about it again. We want to consider what an NTA is and how an NTA can be brought into being and what you expect out of an NTA. We'll come back to you. Let me move to Mnyarazi Masiwa. Mnyarazi, you are the Deputy Secretary General of ATUS. Where are you based at the moment, Mnyarazi?
Okay, I'm based in Harare.
Oh, you are teaching?
Yes, I'm teaching.
Where are you teaching, Mnyarazi?
I'm teaching at Cranbourne Boys High, that's Mbare Hatfield.
Okay.
Yeah,
and how long have you been teaching, Mnyarazi?
It's now my 12th year.
Okay. What has kept you in teaching when many others have left in despair? What has kept you in teaching?
That's true. In addition to teaching, I'm a science teacher. So to respond to your question, that what has kept me in teaching is simply that I have the passion to teach, number one. Number two, it is my strong feeling that with the rate at which teachers are leaving the country right now, the rate at which skilled teachers are moving away from Zimbabwe, if we all decide to move out of Zimbabwe, there will be no one to talk about the crisis in education in Zimbabwe. Indeed, there are opportunities outside, but when you become conscious, when you ask your mind about the future of the education in Zimbabwe, serious questions comes into your mind that if everyone decides to leave Zimbabwe, what does it mean to a child of a poor person, a poor parent in the remote areas, those parents who needs a voice to drive change in education. So what has kept me in Zimbabwe simply is that to drive change, to try and put across these advocates that we need change in education. We really need to confront the crisis that we are faced with in education. So to that end, it has been my pledge that I will not leave Zimbabwe soon. I will stay in Zimbabwe and I will advocate for a revolution in education system in Zimbabwe so that learners have got an equal opportunity to education.
Yes, and that's very, very noble, really. And this is why you are, of course, you're an Artus. Can you explain to the audience here what Artus is?
Okay, thank you. So ATUS is the abbreviation for Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe. ATUS is a pro-poor education. It's a pro-poor union, a union that fight for the right to education, a right that has to be protected, a union that advocates for equal education for all learners despite location or background. That is to say, learners from a rich background and learners from poor background must get an opportunity to access education. And it is a union that believes that education must be funded by the state as enshrined in the constitution. If we look at that, section 75 of the constitution prescribes that education must be funded by the state.
And what's the membership of Artus right now?
Right now, our membership is we have got subscribing members, we have got associate members, and the total number of this membership is around 1,000, 15,000. Yes,
40,000 teachers, yes.
sure.
Are there teachers who are not members of Artus? And if so, why
We
not?
have Yeah, we have got teachers who are subscribing directly. You would notice that a lot of our members who subscribe, some are removed from SSB deduction because of repression. Some are just skeptical of joining ATUS because it has been branded as a union which spearhead regime change agenda and stuff like that. So we have got a good number of those members who are still subscribing and who are joining, and a lot of members just decide to pay their subscription monthly, not through SSB deduction or other formal methods.
Yeah. So the membership is growing, no?
Sure, the membership is growing very fast and it is encouraging.
So it's obvious that Artus is now the cutting edge of unionism in Zimbabwe, not so? Probably,
Sure,
it's the heart of the ZCTU now, no?
that's very true. That's very true.
And what's the total number of teachers in Zimbabwe, in your view, across the sectors? What would you put the number at?
Right. across sectors, as it stands, you would understand that these numbers are changing. We've got teachers who are moving from formal education system to private system to private schools, just like learners, and some are moving out of the country here and there. So as it stands, the number is quite fluctuating, but we really have a serious deficit in the number of skilled teachers, especially in rural areas. So to put a figure at this moment with the rate of fluctuating of teachers, it may be not very, very much correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's depressing because in our time we had a clear record of number of teachers. What are the teacher training institutions in terms of numbers? Are they fully subscribed in terms of the possible number of trainees, the teacher training colleges across the country?
Indeed. Yeah, at teacher training colleges now, they have all commercialized. So what they do is they recruit and encourage teachers to form private colleges, and teachers go through colleges and they join the private sector, and some just after college they leave the country. So but they are still not we are not having enough numbers to supply in our schools. Why? Because the morale is very low. All citizens now are not encouraged to join the profession. The profession is no longer attractive, so we don't have a good number of teachers who are going to teacher training colleges. Most of the teacher training colleges no longer conduct interviews as we used to know. You would realize that around the intake periods, that is around January and February, where interviews are conducted, and sometimes in November, September, thereabout, the teacher colleges will be flighting adverts to encourage people with enough qualification, that is 5 O levels for primary schools, to just go with school fees, with college fees, and attend and join the colleges. This has come because there is no motivation. But before, there were tight interviews, so colleges were looking for those teachers who are motivated to be teachers, for those teachers who have got the morale, who have got the drive or the passion to join the profession. But now they are taking everyone except no one.
Oh, okay, that's very sad. Now, you got the topic before you, an NTA today, making education work again. What's your understanding of the NTA?
Thank you so much. That's a National Transition Authority, which makes a lot of sense as it stands. Because if you look at it closely, the crisis that we are having in Zimbabwe is not driven by our incapable of doing things, but it is being driven by the lack of a political will. It is driven by politicization of education. It is driven by just incompetence. It is driven by nepotism, by corruption. So by having an NTA today, it will bring that a unity across all the stakeholders in Zimbabwe. It will bring together leaders who are concerned. It will bring together professionals who are driven by the zeal to see a change in education. So we truly believe, I personally truly believe, of course, with some teachers whom I have consulted and had discussions with, believe that it's now time for an NTA to be in place so that we have got a real change in education. If you revert back, of late we had ZANU-PF led government. At some point we had a unity government and things. There were some changes in education there. So we believe now, if we have an NTA, we will really come to realize some true or positive change, like the small gains that we got during the unit government. But if we continue to have a one part led government, we will continue to have serious challenges.
Okay. But what is your experience as ATUs in particular, but also as teachers? Why are you the target of so many attacks by the state? What do they fear of you?
The truth is always a very painful tool for the poor, against the elites, against capitalism, against those in power. Because when you speak truth, you are really directly confronting or challenging some offices which are in authority. So by doing so, some may take it as a direct attack, as if you are personalizing the struggle for education. You are personalizing the right to education against some individual. But our duty is to say the truth. Our duty is to advocate for education. We are not political. We are apolitical, but we find ourselves most of the time. We find ourselves in a very difficult position. You look right now, our Secretary General is in and out in courts. He is a target for just voicing out against these methods that are being used to manage education. He is just persecuted for calling out that the right to education must be respected. So as it stands, it seems as if it is a tool which is saying much against non-funding of state education, against the dropouts of learners, against the privatization of education, against the corruption in education. So by doing so, it seems as if we are attacking a certain political party, which is not true. We are attacking our attitude towards education. We are attacking corruption. We are against non-funding of education. We are against the privatization of education.
Yes, but you are still the brunt of attack by government, is it? This,
True.
but don't you understand that teachers are the backbone of society, the social base of society, and
That's very true.
basically we all came through teachers, didn't we? Um, so clearly, you occupy a very important position as teachers across the country. Wouldn't you agree?
Sure, we agree.
And you can make or break a government as teachers.
That's
You
how
agree?
that's how people think. But our duty is to make sure that education, right to education, is respected by anyone who be in power, and will continue asking for people to respect education.
Yes. So what's your view now on how to redeem the current crisis, which shows itself in particular in education and health. What is Atus's view on the way forward?
Okay, on the way forward, we simply ask the people of Zimbabwe and those in authority to be driven by the philosophy of Ubuntu, Unu, towards education. We simply ask for those in authority to change their attitude. Let us have the political will to change education for the better. We simply ask the budget allocation to be improved. We want transparent management of educational funds. So, by for us to get to this point, it is now our feel that we really need a change in how we manage our things. And that change may be brought by the National Transition Authority that can manage these.
You have frozen.
The right direction.
Yes, yes. Carry on. You had frozen. You are
Yeah.
on the subject of the NTA. Hmm?
Sure, I was on the subject of NTA that I really believe that it is at that time that we need a National Transition Authority to look into the crisis in education. If you look at the number of learners who are dropping out, we have got two phases of dropping out. It's dropping out from a public school to a private school. That another dropout in the sense of how we view education in Zimbabwe, that education must be managed at a public level. So we also have another dropout where a learner fails to access education altogether and drops out completely. So to avoid that, we really need an NTA with a changed attitude towards education, and NTA which respect the right to education, and NTA which respect the voice of trade unionists, which listens to trade unionists, which sits down with the parents, teachers, learners. Those are the stakeholders in education, and consult on how they want this education to be managed. On which curriculum do they want? Our curriculum, as far as it can be called a new curriculum or a revised heritage-based curriculum, it is detached from the technological world that we are living in, because there were no proper consultation, as said by the VP before.
Yes. I'll be coming back to you shortly. If you can put on forward at the end your proposal for the way forward, and in particular on how ATUs and teachers in general can assist in the development and establishment of an NTA in Zimbabwe. I'll come back to you. Professor Wenge, can you come in and join us if you are here?
We have lost him.
No, he's gone.
Yes.
Yeah, Tony, want to come in? What did you say about this thing, David? About the link?
He's back. He's back, Prof.
Hmm?
Professor is back.
Is Wenge back? Wenge?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm sorry you're having a problem with your network, but I
Yes,
would
a
like
lot.
you to give us some since you're coming from the AUT, give us some background to the problem that's currently at play in Zimbabwe with respect to the university teachers.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Yes, I represent the Association of University Teachers at the University of Zimbabwe, being the spokesperson. Yeah, and today our strike is 108 days old. We have been on strike since the 16th of April 2025, and our struggle basically has to do with the dignity of the profession. We have been advocating for decent salaries and, of course, quality education through decent salaries, of course. But we have met an administration, particularly the University of Zimbabwe, that does not respect academics, that does not respect quality, that does not respect even employee rights. That is why on the 16th of April, while we were preparing for a picket after organizing a lawful and constitutional strike, we were arrested, put in the cells until the next day. But all this was because the University of Zimbabwe authorities had reported to the police that some people were bent on causing chaos at the university. But later on, the police realized that there was no major issue and we were let go. But basically, I would say there is a crisis at the University of Zimbabwe. If this crisis would be a reflection of everything that's of all the state universities, definitely would say education in Zimbabwe, particularly higher and tertiary education, is really gone. But of course, I would not speak for everyone. I would speak only for the University of Zimbabwe, which I know from the 16th of April to date, lectures have not been taking place, and things are really bad. There was supposed to be results for Block 2 examinations, which were due in April, end of April. The results are not yet in. They were supposed to be teaching for Block 3 and Block 4. Nothing much happened. Of course, the university instituted the no work, no pay principle, and so that all the lecturers who were on strike would not get salaries. At the same time, they hired underqualified and unqualified individuals to teach in the university, to teach those modules that were supposed to be taught by lecturers who were on strike. But again, more disaster actually happened because of that. In the first place, all the hired adjuncts don't know what exactly Education 5.0 is. Of course, we, the people who are teaching at the universities, know that this is just a farce. There's nothing that is called Education 5.0 that is happening in the country, and it's ill-conceived, so to speak. But of course, even with the little respect that we have for it, or with no respect for it as such, the hired adjunct lecturers don't have any appreciation of what it is, which means they were hired to do what they don't know. At the end of the day, some of the adjuncts, we have now full information about what is happening in the university. Some of the adjunct lecturers had to leak the exams to the students. They taught something that is different from what is demanded by the module outline. So, in terms of the quality of education that we have seen at the University of Zimbabwe for this semester, and of course for the past few years, things have not been well, because you may recall that this strike is as a result of realizing that we are not going anywhere in trying to engage the University of Zimbabwe authorities. Since 2018, our salaries were just slashed. From 2018 in October, our salaries were slashed from about 3,000 for senior lecturers, for senior professors, to about 300 USD. Then later on, there was the ZIG component that was added. It means from 2019 thereabout, lecturers were getting less than 450 USD per month. That huge drop from about 3,000 USD. And this amount of the USD 230 is paid across all the employees of the university. A senior professor, a junior professor, a cleaner, a secretary, a security guard, they are getting exactly the same amount. So we have been patient in trying to engage the University of Zimbabwe from 2018 until April this year, when we said enough is enough. We cannot tolerate this anymore, and we went on strike. And since then, the University of Zimbabwe is almost a ghost town.
So, what is it? How long have you been there at this University of Zimbabwe yourself?
I joined the University of Zimbabwe in 2005. So it's
2005.
20 years now. I've been at the University of Zimbabwe.
Had you studied there before?
Yes, I started at the University of Zimbabwe until my MA, which I completed in 2006, because I joined as a junior lecturer, being promoted from as a teaching assistant, basically.
And I was asking whether you did your undergraduate at the University of Zimbabwe.
Yes, I did my undergraduate there until masters.
What years?
I
What
only
years
left
were you at university? What years did you? When did
2000
you enroll at
and
the University of Zimbabwe?
1999 I enrolled at the University of Zimbabwe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So I only
what's in
left. I
your
only
view?
left the University of. Sorry.
Just carry on.
Yeah, I only left the University of Zimbabwe for my PhD. That's when I left the University of Zimbabwe. Only for 3.5 years, I did my PhD in German, and I came back home.
Okay. So you have seen the University of Zimbabwe for almost 30 years, right?
Yes.
And up to that 99 to 99 when you joined the university, it was a university as good as any other university.
Exactly. I would say that exactly, because when we came to the University of Zimbabwe, particularly me and a lot of my other colleagues coming from the rural areas, coming from upper tops and enrolling at the University of Zimbabwe, we really encountered
Carry on. You have dropped. Hello, Bengay. Your network has dropped. Hello, Bengay. 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 Tony, can you come in there?
Sure. Yeah. It was interesting listening to Professor Van Gay, because as a former secretary of the AUT in the 80s and early 90s, the position was that we could protest, but our conditions and the conditions of the students were exceptional. By the time the 80s finished, the University of Zimbabwe was an exemplary university in Africa. And we've watched the slow decline of the university to the points that Professor Van Gay has been making. But I want to make another point, and that was that in the late 80s and early 90s, academics became regarded as the enemy of the state. That was the struggle in the late 80s and the early 90s over the University Amendment Act. We only had one university in the country, now we have 10. And as you pointed out, those 10 universities produce 30,000 graduates a year. Start adding it up over the past 5 years, and you realize the problem in education. Education is producing graduates who have no jobs. And the point that you made at the beginning that the political economy of the country is such that education is basically pushing graduates into a black hole. But there's another more sinister point, and that was made by the previous speakers, and that was that not merely the universities have become places of dissent, and I'm struck by the fact that UZ is protesting, but another 9 state universities are not protesting about their conditions. But the teachers, the people who are closest to the children, the people who produce the 30,000 who will graduate, those teachers are regarded as enemies. And some work that was done in 2008 and 2009 pointed out that teachers were the primary targets for political violence. A study done with the Progressive Teachers Union of 2,000 teachers showed in 2008 that of the 2,000 teachers who responded to the survey done, 50% of them reported an incident of organized violence and torture. And of that 50%, another 50%, in other words, 25% of the teachers reported that that incident had happened at school in front of school children. That means, and you made the point earlier, that teachers are the glue that holds communities together. They create the aspirations for the parents and the families for a better life. And those children witness these very important people being humiliated, intimidated, brutalized in front of children. And everybody in this country knows that the vast majority of those schools are primary schools. So we're talking about little children who saw their teachers hammered for basically expressing the freedom to be a citizen and the freedom to teach children to become good democratic citizens. I think that's deeply sinister. I think it's a kind of scandal right now that the universities show no solidarity with each other, because I don't believe that UZ is being targeted specifically because of its long history of freedom and the right to articulate academic freedom. But I wonder what's happened in the other universities, because I don't believe they're being paid any better. And the question is...
Maybe you can ask Wenge. Wenge, are you back? Can you answer that question that Tony raised? Why is it only the University of Zimbabwe that appears to be in the box? Wenge? Wenge? Wenge?
He's trying to relink. He's trying to hook in again. Maybe you could put that to someone else.
Munyarazi, are you able to answer this for us? Munyarazi? Why is it at the moment it appears only to be University of Zimbabwe which is affected by this problem?
Okay.
Where are the other 9 universities out of the mix?
There could be different reasons. Reason number one may be contributed by maybe our how administrations operate at different universities. You look at MSU, how a particular administration at MSU respond to issues of MSU lecturers, and how the particular administration at University of Zimbabwe respond to issues raised by lecturers at universities of Zimbabwe and different universities across the board.
Are the salaries different? Is the salary structure different at UZ from that at other universities? Wenge just explained at the moment that everybody in the university from the staff, such as groundsmen and so on and so forth, right up to professor, all receive the same salary, $230 a month. Is that the same in all the universities, from your knowledge?
Yeah, it's the same across all universities. I was just looking at how the leadership of Professor Mapfumo has been treating lecturers at University of Zimbabwe as an individual. Him, that's one factor, not meaning this. This is the general factor that has caused that has resulted in a situation where we are, where the University of Zimbabwe it seems to have the crisis more than other universities. This is just one factor. Maybe another factor is simply that we are the lecturers didn't mobilize other lecturers. I just feel it's just an opinion that I have, that maybe lecturers at University of Zimbabwe did not mobilize well other lecturers.
Okay, maybe we'll leave you out of that one. Maybe you can give us your last few words on the way forward. How do you see the way forward out of this crisis, the education crisis in Zimbabwe? What are your last words, Nyaradzi?
Pardon?
Your last words on this panel as to the way forward out of this
Okay.
crisis that's facing Zimbabwe.
As to the way forward, I will reiterate: number one, the political will. Number two, we really need a new way of managing things. That's an NTA that is neutral, not biased, not driven by other political ambitions. I would also maybe go on to mention that we suggest that we must use remittances from natural resources to fund education. We must also stop privatization. We must also have it on paper that those who hold public offices must not own private schools, so that their attitude towards public schools is positive. We must also encourage every office holder, every public office holder, to send their schools to the nearest public school at his place of residence. That should be the school where the person should send his or her children. We must not have an MP, to be specific, who is an MP in Kwazana or an MP in Nyanga, sending his children in a different constituency. Every public office holder must send his children to his or her nearest public school. Then I also want to encourage, of course, a total disbandment of ZIMSEC board as a board which manages our examination. The public has lost trust in that board, and also we will go for one examination board in Zimbabwe. We need to do away with all other examination board in Zimbabwe, so that this is to make sure that our attitude towards public education is one. We have got one goal: to make sure that public education works again, and also promote rural retention allowance for teachers, so that teachers have got that motivation to go and deliver in rural areas. And above all, we need to motivate our teachers by paying them a living wage, and respecting the collective bargaining in education, so that we respect all the voices, we consult before making decisions. Thank you.
No, that's very strong, Mnyarazi. It's very potent what you have said. I think it is the bedrock of reform in education, if we can have that. And I take it this is a very strong position of ATU's, no doubt.
That's very true.
And I think it would be to really help if artists can make this public, more public than it has been up to now, and would welcome a paper from you, 1 page or 2 pages, what you just said now, so we can broadcast this further than this. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Mnyaraji. Thank you. It was really good having you. Christine, are you still there? Christine?
Yes, I'm there.
Oh, you've been listening?
Yes, I was following through.
Do you, on the way forward, would you like to elaborate or highlight the points made by Mnyaraji just now on the way forward out of this
Yes,
crisis that we're facing?
the government should fund education. They should fund education. They should increase the percentage that they allocate for education. They should disburse the beam funds early so that schools can utilize the funds and also run the schools well. Remuneration of teachers should be improved. Teachers are wallowing in poverty. A teacher who's not motivated, a teacher who's not well paid, doesn't deliver well. So the crisis is centered on the teacher. If a teacher is motivated, he or she delivers well. So the government should listen to the plight of teachers. The government should pay well the teachers. I think that's my last words.
I mean that's a very strong word, but you can see from the example of University of Zimbabwe,
Yes.
where the issue of pay is central. And now, if they can pay university professors and university lecturers what they deserve, how they cater for school teachers in their hundreds?
It simply shows that our education system is dying. It was the primary and the secondary education, but now it has gone to the tertiary education. So what type of a child are we producing at the end? Because we have heard that students are now being taught by non-qualified lecturers. So the end result is just poor. We have a country where human resources is just poor because on top there, the university, that's where the cream is being spread, the final polishing of an individual. Now it has all gone bad. So we are just killing our country. In the next decade or future, we won't be having people who are competent.
Yeah, I think this is the heart of the matter, heart of the crisis, and we're saying that basically, to the extent that even tertiary education is now affected by the same crisis, and as you really pointed out, if there is a problem at the primary and secondary education levels, you're going to have inevitably problems at the tertiary level. Now that's what's happening.
Yes.
So the question really, Christine, is how can this government, can this state, can they deliver? Can they make education work again? That is the question before us.
Okay. I don't think they can deliver.
You can't, yeah.
The only solution is that of having an NTA.
Yes. Do you have some idea as to how NTA can be brought about in conclusion? Christine?
Hello?
How do you think an NTA can be brought about?
I think this NTA should just comprise of different people. Even for the education side that I'm representing, also have people who have education at heart, because currently the current government doesn't have education at heart. If they do not fund the education, then we are going nowhere. So we need people who have education at heart, people who really want to see education in Zimbabwe improving, people who are really into it, not people who just want portfolios, or people who just want to be called minister of so and so without even delivering, or without even caring, or without even lending an ear to the plight of that ministry. So an NTA that is drawn from various people and stakeholders who are willing to see change, who are willing to see the education sector regeminate, revitalize, I think it will work. And also, which comprise, even with stakeholders, even with organizations that support education. I think it will work.
Christine, thank you very much. I think we want also to pay homage to ATUS as a very important organization. And from what you, Christine and Munyarazi, have said today, if we can have the main principles that guide ATUS put on the table for national consumption, in particular, the point that until the leadership of this country invest in education, regard education at the basic level as a right, and begin to send their own children to those schools nearest to them, then they will also have an interest in making sure that education is funded, that teachers are paid well, and that indeed, with a good basic and secondary education, you're going to have a sound tertiary education like we had in the 80s. As I said earlier on,
Yeah.
I'm proud to have been associated with the education revolution of the 80s, as one was involved in manpower planning and involved in education generally. And as I said earlier on, it's so sad to see that our products from the 80s and 90s are now in the neighborhood. We're running education in South Africa, Namibia, Botswana. Our skills are everywhere across. I was saying, speaking in South Africa a few weeks ago, and I was saying Zimbabweans, I'm sure you can even find them on the moon, you know? But conversely, our own country, Zimbabwe itself, can you believe it? Anyone who was with us in the 80s won't believe that we are now suffering a crisis in education when we were at the pride of the world in the field of education. We hope that through organizations like ATUS and other professional bodies, we can group together, come together, and begin discussing the transitional authority as a way forward. So on that note, I want to thank Christine, Nyaradzi, and Wengei for joining us on this discussion. One of the many discussions we'll be having in the next few weeks and months while we proceed towards the national conference at which the National Transitional Authority will be discussed in full. And eventually, we hope we'll be able to see this transitional authority in place as a transitional arrangement to give the country time to breathe, to provide the country with a group of technocrats, patriots, who can undertake the reform exercise, economic reform, social development reform, and indeed political reform itself. So on that note, thank you until our next policy dialogue.